Welcome to Unfiltered Talks US. We cut through the noise and bring you the most powerful insights from the world's biggest podcasts. So let's get started.
Viper is a vertical takeoff fighter jet. Like, that's not something that you're going to build on that amount of money. And so really, until Bedrock made that vote of confidence, it was all kind of lab-esque work of like proving our competence, proving that we could do things, starting early customer conversations. And that's when the company, I'd say, like actually like truly cemented, was around that Bedrock led.
What were you building in the house? What were you 3D printing?
It's a good question. What all were we working on at the time? We had 3 major programs at this point. So we had Viper, which is today it's a 6.5-foot long vertical takeoff fighter jet. Back then, all we could afford was like crappy RC turbines. So it was runway launched and never worked super well. And then the next, I had this dream for something called, we used to call it Medusa. It was this big tail sitter drone. So 1,000-mile range. We had 3D printers. We were never going to build that. We were building like scale demonstrations. But a tail sitter that would go take off, do ISR, do strike, and then come back and land. A big part of our philosophy has always been decentralization. Like the next era of warfare, one of the only things I think you can say with confidence right now is that strike is much easier at long range. And so defending centralized assets, ships in the ocean, aircraft on the runway, even 2,000, 3,000 miles away, becomes so much harder. And so our big emphasis, one of them has always been on this decentralization. Like how do you have things take off vertically? How do you have things only require 2 operators so that you and I can walk outside, launch something, and be gone by the time they figure out where it came from? So that was Medusa. And then the third, and this plays into the decentralization bet, but again was a bad bet, was something called Prometheus, which was, and this was actually done up in Boston. So this work, the first 2 I described were happening down in Austin. The other one was up in Boston, was basically an aluminum hydrogen generator. And so similarly, as you look at Indo-PACOM, one of the hard problems is how do you fuel these forces going forward? And that gets even harder if your tankers are getting taken out by unmanned surface vehicles, right? By unmanned underwater vehicles, by these different things. And so one of the big things we're focused on is how do you actually generate fuel at point of need? And so that's why we were doing the aluminum hydrogen work. Now,
So you're kind of taking a very complex problem you're also thinking about all the logistics and everything that go along with the products that you're making.
You have to. That's where
Are these other companies doing that? I don't think they are.
I think they are now. I don't think necessarily know. I mean, frankly, what they were working on at the time was better than what we were working on at the time. Because the aluminum thing was, maybe we thought through one specific niche area of the problem very well, but the rest was actually not great. I would say we do take probably a more full stack approach to things. But no, the other companies working in the space are very good. Like I think this new era of people working on these problems take it seriously.
Oh, I've talked to a lot of them. They're all fucking sharp. I haven't heard anyone talk about logistics.
Logistics wins wars. Like that is,
yep.
Other than your people, it's the most important thing at the end of the day.
What is the saying? Amateurs talk tactics. Pros talk logistics.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, it's important. The way we're looking at the logistics problem now is not requiring runways, making things as small as they possibly can be so that they're easy to get into theater. Like Glide is literally this big and can take out a target a very, very far range.
Which
far
one
ways
is Glide?
Downrange. That's the one we kind of talk about the least. It's a high altitude glide vehicle to take out targets. It's a more sensitive con op, but it's this big, and you and I could deploy this here and take out a target a long ways downrange.
Is this the thing that looks like a missile?
That's Viper. So okay. we have 5 products we've talked about publicly. So one is Viper. It's about a 6.5-foot long vertical takeoff, kind of miniature fighter jet. And so the job of Viper is to do everything a fighter jet would do as best as can be done while being cheap enough to mass manufacture, like cheap enough to seriously go and make 1 million, 2 million of these things and then be runway independent. And so several 100-mile range, like 600 miles an hour, can go and get up to these high altitudes, but only cost $100,000. And you and I could take it out of a Pelican case here and launch it with no ground infrastructure. And so Army is super excited about Viper or a bunch of folks are for surface to surface. But then that same aircraft you can take and go do surface to air. And so
Wow.
that's Viper. And then
So hold on. So is Viper, I mean, does it carry a payload or is it the payload?
right now it is the payload.
It is the payload.
That's not necessarily true of future versions of Viper.
Okay.
So the other thing we do with our products is every 6 months or so, I'm trying to get that down, but they're hard products to engineer. We try to completely re-architect the product. And so the current version of Viper, few 100-mile range, purely surface to surface. And I shouldn't talk too much about future, but like eventually you're dropping payloads. Eventually you're coming in and landing vertically and doing all these different things. But you're doing that at a price point that's like 10 times less than a current air-to-air missile.
Wow.
So that's a fun one. We've been flying that one for about a year now.
We could use a couple of those here.
You want one?
Yeah.
All right.
Fuck yeah, I want one.
I'll get you a Viper.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Oh, fuck yes.
I'm guessing no warhead in the Viper, but I'll get you.
We'll take some more heads too. I might get that run in with the ATF. If
There you go. Yeah, I'll get you a Viper, 100%.
Are you serious?
Yeah,
Fuck yeah.
yeah.
Yes.
The composite, the manufacturing guys are going to be so excited building that Viper.
No shit.
Yeah, they're
Dude,
gonna
you got to
watch
come
this.
back. You got to come back.
I'd love
You got to
to.
come back.
I'll 100% get you a Viper. Do you want me to walk through the products? Is this interesting?
Absolutely. Yes. All of them.
I
As much as you can.
Yeah, for sure. So the Stratosphere I can talk less about.
Okay.
I think it's the most important. And this is the bet we're placing as a company that is sort of most distinct and also kind of most controversial right now. I am a huge believer, and you're going to laugh. I'm a huge believer and have been since high school that balloons are the most important tools in future conflict.
You mentioned that at breakfast.
I did. Well, the balloon in the US this week,
Yeah,
the Chinese balloon.
The Mexican cartel drone that wound up being a happy birthday balloon.
Exactly. I mean, the Russians are starting to send balloons out at Lithuania. It's causing a real problem. Obviously, I got a ton of traction. So the Chinese balloon happened during that semester after I had dropped out, which was part of why we were able to get funding. Is I was talking to all these people talking about balloons, and they were like laughing, and then suddenly our entire country freaks the hell out because of balloons. But yeah, I won't go into it too specifically. But shooting a balloon down is so much harder than putting a balloon up. So much harder. And there are
What's that?
So putting a balloon up is super easy for obvious reasons, right? Like you fill it up with gas and it goes up to, let's say, 60,000, 80,000 feet. Well, to then go pop it, you've got to send a missile or a plane up to 60 to 80,000 feet. And so we talk a lot about asymmetry. Like this is asymmetry at the maximum.
I see what you're saying.
And then the interesting thing is there's these companies, Loon is the most famous, that actually developed ways of navigating balloons. So instead of this being something that's like a party balloon that goes up, pops, disappears, basically forms a satellite that can navigate, that can station keep, that can do all these different things. And so suddenly you've got a payload at an altitude that's 100 to 1,000 times more expensive to shoot down than it is to put up, that can actually tack against wind patterns and lock in places. And then from there, there's obviously really interesting things you can do once you have a payload up at that altitude. And then the more interesting thing is if I can have thousands of payloads, like hundreds of thousands of payloads up at that altitude at a given time. So we have Stratus payloads up at altitude, really, really interesting things you can do deploying those things at scale. And something I should mention is like, as we talk logistics, the logistics of balloons are pretty fantastic because you can launch them thousands of miles away. And so you and I could launch a balloon here and have it up over X country, actually much quicker than I think most people realize. And so the logistics problem gets significantly easier.
And so how did you come to the conclusion that balloons would be so important?
It's just physics. You look at how cheap something is to put up, you look at how expensive it is to shoot down. You think about inventing new ways to shoot stuff down. Like you start wargaming. Well, if you're shooting down balloons, well, what if the balloons are carrying air-to-air missiles, all these different things. So anyway, we've held that contention strongly for a while as a company. We're working very, very,
I mean,
very
does this
hard.
stuff just pop in your head? Or, I mean,
It does. I mean, a lot of this, I can't claim all of these ideas. Like, and it's always hard to tell where an idea comes from, but you're talking to hundreds of different people in a given day. Like, I didn't invent Loon, right? Like, I read the Loon library in high school. They published all of it. They published how to go and navigate these balloons. And so you go and read that, and suddenly you start thinking about these things and can extrapolate pretty quickly. And then our final two products we talk about, one is basically a much bigger jet-powered aircraft. We flew this for the first time in December. I released a video about it.
Is this the one 71 days from drawing to build?
Yes.
Dude, what the fuck? That's crazy.
I can't take credit for it.
71 days?
The engineers were working hard. And then one of the good things about our philosophy is we spend so much time on subcomponents. So like most primes or system integrators that go and buy other people's subcomponents and put them together, one of the big things that starts to happen as you develop a really good matrix engineering org is like you just take your learnings from Viper and apply it to these other aircraft. So it's actually, in many cases, the same avionics that fly our different vehicles. It'll be the same jet engines that ship on Viper and on this other platform. So it was fast.
What is this one called?
There are a few different names for it.
Dart?
No, that's a different one.
Okay.
So some folks call it Pike, some folks call it Venom. I unfortunately don't get to choose the name of my products. If I was building in commercial industry, I would say, hey, here's the name of my products. And so I developed them to a point, and the government comes up with a name for it that they like to call it. Pike, Venom, different things for different customers, and or different kind of potential customers. And then past that, we have Dart. Dart is sort of my company's best crack at unmanned system defeat. So this is us entering the defensive side. And so there will never be a silver bullet answer to taking out drones, right? You'll always have some combination of big platforms, some combination of small platforms, some combination of jamming, some combination of lasers. But our philosophy is to focus on what we think is sort of the power law important problem within that set. For me, like our systems, when they ship downrange, don't rely on GPS or RF in terminal, right? And so what that means is that you really can't jam these things, right? Similarly, the way a lot of these drones right now that are slower, that are non-maneuverable, are taken out are with electric-based interceptors. Well, that's not going to work once you have things like Viper that come in very quickly.
Okay, that's why I was going to, I mean, we were talking about Epirus earlier,
Yeah.
Leonidas and some of those, some of that weaponry.
Yeah.
And that's because I was going to say, seems like that's the answer.
It's a different...
It takes out the drones that have the wire, takes out drones without the wire. I think they dropped like 100 and something fucking drones, a month ago?
Yeah.
Or something out in the desert.
It's one of the best
successfully.
tools. It's great.
But, so you're saying that a weapon like Leonidas or what Epirus is developing is not going to be effective against something like...
Now here's where the conversation gets really interesting. Let's break down what this actually means.
It's one that moves at whatever speed.
So Leonidas is a bit different. So you have jamming, and then you've got Leonidas, which is actually directed microwave. Mm-hmm. Leonidas is a great platform and will actually take out most things. It's not a silver bullet though, because the second you turn it on, you're pumping so much power. Anyway, there's stuff we shouldn't get into there, but like there are ways to get through it, specifically with fast moving things that already have a given trajectory. And so you need the full stack. Like DJIs, the drones most unsophisticated adversaries are going to be flying, and similar drones are quite susceptible to jamming, right? And so jam those. You've got something like Leonidas that is very, very, very good against a large number of assets in a given location.
DMP, correct?
It is. But it's an expensive platform. It's a very, very power-hungry platform. And then it's a platform that it's pretty easy quickly to realize where it is. And so then you've got kinetic action, where you're actually going and intercepting something. In kinetic action, for certain threats, you want to go use an electric interceptor, right? So the shot heads I was describing to you, kind of low and slow, you want to go and hit that with an electric interceptor. The issue is if you've got something like Viper that's cruising up at 35,000 plus feet, coming straight down super, super fast, maneuvering along the way, you're not going to reach that with an electric interceptor, right? And so that's when you need faster moving things. The issue with guns is you're pretty good against one adversarial drone. Well, most of the targets you're defending are expensive enough to send tens of adversarial drones against. And so if 10 things are coming in at 600 miles an hour all at the same time, your gun is, for obvious reasons, not going to have time to shoot it down. And so what we're working on with Dart is how cheap can you possibly get an actual missile to go and interdict these things. And so one of the issues is if you're using a drone to take out another drone, your drone ends up being as expensive, if not more expensive. And so it's not an asymmetric approach.
Gotcha.
Right. Whereas with our missiles and with missile systems, generally speaking, and I guess I should step back, what makes it so expensive is that you're using a jet engine or electric motors or other things to get up to speed, which is why I'm a fan of solid rocket motors. They're super short range, but they're super, super cheap if you manufacture them right, and you can take out adversarial assets at a theoretically a price point cheaper than the asset itself, which gives you sort of your asymmetry back. And so that's what we're working on with Dart, is like, how cheap can you possibly get one of these surface to air missiles?
How fast does it go?
So right now it's in the sort of transonic, just below transonic regime. We'll end up expanding that line. We'll have supersonic ones. Like, you don't want to waste a supersonic one against a subsonic asset. And so kind of the goal is to have this modular system, and you actually have different types of darts with different capabilities over time. I'm talking years in the future here. But the funny thing is, we did this during the first Cold War. Like, when air power first started, we were looking at all these different approaches to taking out aircraft. Like, the F-104 is an interceptor. It's basically like a rocket with wings to go out and take out Russian bombers, right? You've got literally ideas of like nuking the air going on at the time. And what ended up winning out is solid rocket motor with aero control surfaces. And that's been super, super successful, generally speaking, until the era of stealth. And so, yeah, that's our approach with Dart. It's like, vertically integrate this thing as much as possible, drive the cost down as much as you possibly can, optimize it to make hundreds of thousands, because you're going to need so many of these systems. Like, if our adversaries are making hundreds of thousands of systems, we need hundreds of thousands of interceptors at least. And that's assuming you even know where they're going to strike. So you actually likely need significantly more if you want to have true defense.
Man, this is fucking wild, man. I mean, as you're describing all this stuff and you're talking about the decentralization, a decentralized military force. I mean, how are these things? It's just so fucking different than from what I'm used to. I mean, everything is everything's centralized to a flagpole base, whether that's Kabul or Bagram or fucking Baghdad or anywhere else I've been. And then you have outstations, but it's still all centralized. And, I remember when I interviewed Brandon Sang from Shield AI, I mean, that's his big thing.
Yep.
Every pickleball court in the world is a fucking launch pad.
Yep.
And so, I mean, when you think about sending thousands of drones in, where are you going to send thousands of drones to? Because everything's going to be fucking decentralized,
and that's why. So you're exactly right.
In the entire infrastructure of global militaries has to fucking change, because you can't have it centralized onto bases.
Yep.
And so what does that even look like? Does that look like we just have fucking houses in the middle of neighborhoods that nobody knows about, where the roofs open up and a fucking drone flies out? Or, I mean, in your mind, what does the future look like? I mean, you can't have anything centralized.
Yeah.
You brought up the Russian, what was the
Operation Spiderweb?
Yeah, that one. I mean, perfect. Probably, I think that's the first example of what could happen, right?
Yep.
And then you put that on a mass scale, and
it's crazy.
Clarksville's right up the road. That's where fucking TF-160 is. So,
Yep.
You know what I mean? That you got Patterson Air Force Base, right? You got all this. It's all centralized.
Yep, exactly.
So we're fucked. So how do you now not only are we restructuring all the technology, but you have to rethink everything that we think we know is pretty much completely obsolete.
And this is why revolutions in military affairs are always so so dangerous to great powers. Is like, you as the US just have so much confidence in your way of doing things. We need to start today. And I think, one, you need decentralized deep strike capability. You need decentralized ISR capability. And so your actual effects downrange obviously have to be decentralized. You need to have assets that are capable of decentralized logistics, right? You can't require a tanker to refuel in air. On the ground, you can't require centralized infrastructure. You can't require a runway. We'll see how far back it marches, but one could very clearly imagine a world where manufacturing itself has to be decentralized. And so,
Man, that's even a good point.
yeah,
Or underground.
yeah, no, it becomes freaky real quick.
How fast do you think this all has to happen?
China's doing it real fast. So like they released a boat, I think in January, that's a commercial cargo ship that has containerized munitions. That means you have like a Connex box, like a shipping container that can launch anti-ship missiles. So you don't know if that shipping container is on
Holy shit.
an 18-wheeler. You don't know if that shipping container is on a random cargo ship. You look at ports and you've got hundreds of thousands.
They have the biggest, it's like 95%. No, I'm sorry. It's 50% of the world's shipbuilding capacity is in fucking China. And we have what, less than 1%?
It's crazy. Now,
Holy shit.
I will say I don't worry that much about that.
And my argument was, I wouldn't even say it's an argument. I mean, I remember having this exact conversation with Dino Mavroukas from Saronic and Palmer from Anduril. You know, now my big thing was, I mean, but what kind of ships are they building? Are they just building fucking cargo ships? Are they building shells? I mean, yeah, they could turn that into something, but then you're talking about these fucking shipping containers, and it's like, oh shit, like it's a fucking destroyer in disguise.
Yep. It is. But even that, I think, is too centralized. Like if an actual conflict starts, you're taking those out pretty quickly, because you're talking about, I mean, the missiles to take that ship out will cost a few $100,000. And
well, yeah, I mean, maybe we take them out, maybe we don't. I mean, do we have the? But look at, I don't think the people have the heart to take it out. Because you can't tell which ones are good and which ones are bad. I mean, we just got a small taste of that with the boats coming from Venezuela, and you saw everybody get up in arms because we killed some fucking drug dealers. You know, now we got Chinese cargo ships, 50% of the world's ships all over the fucking place. You can't tell which ones are
that's a great point.
Neutral and which ones are bad guys. And so you got to take them all out. Well, there goes a shit ton of civilians.
Yep. Yeah, no, you're right.
It's fucking genius. If you think about it.
It is. And the U.S. is doing the same thing.
We are?
We are. Now, I don't know if we're doing it as quickly, and certainly not at the same scale, but we need to be. But the big thing that has to happen is on the defensive, you have to decentralize. Like you have to make it such that if you know one of these 10 ships has these missiles on it, there's nothing militarily in striking distance, that it all falls apart so quickly. And this is why I've been so worried about this for so long. And I'm not saying I have the answers. I'm saying I'm developing assets that I think will be helpful in this future world. I can't tell you what a force structure actually needs to look like when this is the case.
It's just wild. And then you think about all the bases that we've given up.
Yeah.
Bagram being very, I mean, it's still centralized, but I mean, you know what I'm saying? Like even, like now we're just consolidating on what? We're back here at the homeland where we could have had, gave up a ton of bases in Europe.
Yep.
All the bases in Afghanistan, all the bases in Iraq. I mean, it's so, at least it was somewhat decentralized. Now we're probably more centralized right now than we have been since World War II.
That's true. And so we need to be working on ways of offensive and defensive assets being decentralized. Like you have to get back into doing that. And I mean, that's why I talk a lot about the Stratosphere, is the range at which you can deploy these things allows you to act more forward. And then hopefully we find ways of doing it where you don't rely on a base to launch these assets. Like there's nothing inherent about Viper that would require any actual fixed assets in a country you're fighting in.
Man. You really got me thinking now. This just looks, I know nothing. That's, you know what I
That's
mean?
not true. No, that's not true. I would
I'm
say
not scared of it. I'm admitting it's
Yeah.
the old way is done.
Yes.
It's complete. It's over. It would be, in my opinion, it's almost detrimental to be even. Maybe I won't say that, but it could. I mean, it's talking to an old guy like me who's used to the old way may be detrimental to the future because it's so hard to switch thinking.
It is. Now, the advantage is we're not going to go from the world we have today to this different world instantly.
Mm-hmm.
And so the easy part is actually talking about the way things should be. The hard part is morphing the current fighting force into the way things should be.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where that discourse is incredibly valuable. Like, how do we bite off 1% a day on getting ourselves towards this future? Because the other thing is, like, we just sit around talking about this, but don't have any actuals of how we get there. Because the issue is, and you know this better than I do, none of these assets operate in a vacuum. So I could go and ship 10,000 Vipers, but if no one can train on them, if they don't plug into existing like command and control, that's useless. And so the real art of it is like define what the future looks like. But the real art of it is like, how do you have taste and tact in the way that you morph our force structure over the next few years. And
How do you start?
You start by buying more of these systems. And obviously I have a conflict of interest saying that, and so everyone should take that with a grain of salt. But I also started this company because I believed in the importance of doing that. And so, but you need to start by building the industrial base.
I mean, where do you store them? And I'm not even talking about your products. I'm talking about locations.
Locations, I mean,
Major bases, Fort Bragg, Clarksville.
They're not that hard to store.
Camp Pendleton.
They're not, I don't think they're...
You know what I mean, though?
For sure.
A massive amount of personnel. I'm not even talking about unmanned systems. I'm talking about decentralizing fucking everything.
Yeah.
Norfolk, Virginia, San Diego, California, biggest fucking 2 naval bases in the country. You know what I mean? How do you decentralize all of this shit?
It's hard. It's hard.
I mean, that's a lot of new land buying. That's a lot of new infrastructure. That's ripping out old shit. What do you do with the old? It's a complete revamp.
It is. And what I will say, something that gives me confidence is nuclear deterrence is still strong. And so you don't have to worry as much about massive threats on U.S. soil. It's in areas of proxy war where it gets really, really dangerous. So if you're Lithuania thinking about this, you need to be thinking very, very, very deeply about decentralization, right? For the U.S., fortunately, we do have nuclear deterrence.
We also have the dome coming, supposedly.
We do. And the dome will be good for certain assets and not good for other assets. So like you're talking about long-range hypersonics, the dome's going to be great. When you're talking about 200 quads that launched from some random shipping container that made its way into the country, the dome's not going to do anything in its current form. Now, I would argue the dome should do something, and that's something we should expand. And I'm also not saying the hypersonics problem isn't something we need to work on. But at least for the things you and I are talking about right now, like the dome's architected with space-based interceptors mostly. The dome's not going to take out a quad that randomly emerges that some Chinese foreign national launches 10 miles from a naval base.
That's it for today's breakdown. If you want more powerful insights from the world's biggest podcasts, make sure you subscribe to Unfiltered Talks US. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.